Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Custom Showcase. And this time, it's a mildly customized copy of Transformers Armada Sideways. Now, straight away, you can actually see the one bit of the one major bit of customizing that I did to him. Well, there are three bits of repainting that I did. One, the exhaust pipes are now painted gray. They've been painted primer gray with some spray paint because initially they were translucent orange, translucent plastic, clear translucent plastic with orange tips. I didn't like that. Number two, I added a little bit of red on the tail lights that are molded here on the back of the seat. But of course the big one, number three, is the front end of the motorcycle, which has been repainted so that the purple and the yellow are now reversed compared to what they used to look like. Here's a picture of the original Armada Sideways toy, and here's a picture of him in the show where you can see that the purple and the yellow have indeed been reversed. So the front of the motorcycle, which forms his chest, is predominantly purple with yellow vents on the side. This is also that color layout was also present on the Takara version of the figure, Double Face from Transformers Micron Legends. I really wanted it to look more show accurate because I didn't like the predominantly yellow front of the motorcycle, and I really hated the teal or turquoise green paint that was used for the headlights because they were supposed to be blue. But at the same time, I don't like how I did this either. Like, the intention was good, but it's just that the execution was rather poor. Particularly given the fact that I didn't have a good enough shade of purple that matched with the plastic that he's predominantly cast in. But yeah, that's basically it for the paint work. Beyond this, I guess it's just a review of the actual toy. But yeah, the vehicle mode is a motorcycle, and he actually comes with his own rider, which is this little dude called Mirror. He's called Mirror in Micron Legends. In Armada, he's just nameless. But yeah, this is basically a combined minifigure that can ride the bike mode. And he's combined from Sideways' two minicons. Rook, who forms the top half, and Crosswise, who forms the bottom half. I'm not going to go through the articulation rundown very much, but, it's all ball joints and double hinges for the most part. It's like Mirror had articulation in as you can see, in the shoulders, elbows, hips, and knees. And it was all ball jointed and hinged apart from the hips, which are just ball jointed. But yeah, here we have Crosswise. And as for Rook, well, we push Mirror's head down to expose Rook's head. And yeah, bring those down. A little bit shaky, but meh. Also, I think you might be able to tell this was back in the day when Hasbro seemed to be kind of afraid to do figures that were cast in like proper black and gray plastic, because even the gray on Crosswise has a slight hint of lavender or purple in it. And Rook isn't cast in black plastic. Yeah, here we have these two little dudes. Pretty awkward looking guys. And the only meaningful articulation that both of them really have is the arms. On Crosswise they can just rotate forwards and backwards because they're on hinges, like swivels with these riveted pins in here, whereas on Rook they are actually on a ball joint, so you have a very limited amount of outward motion as well. But whatever. The funny thing is that they can also ride the bike mode in tandem, which is kind of hilarious. Let me just get that to work out. Plug Rook on here. And Crosswise goes onto the actual seat on the back. Flip up this suspicious looking flap. And bada bing. Now hit it's kind of weird how, you know, you got a slot there, but crosswise never manages to sit perfectly level. There you have him. There we have the party bike. Excuse me while I give my camera a bit of a recharge, unfortunately. Okay, I'm just gonna see how far I can wing it right now before my battery actually runs out. But yeah, here he is in size comparison next to Bumblebee. So, yeah. Obviously, huge motorcycle, but all deluxe class motorcycles can be oversized. But yeah, anyway, let's transform him real quick. Let's transform sideways real quick here. Come on, Rook, stand up. Stand up, man. You got pretty big feet. There we go. Okay, so, transformation. Firstly, you're going to take the seat, rock it back, and tab it into position on this double hinge. And then you take these trunks, or pannier bags, I suppose, and you just extend them out so that they will obviously form the legs of the robot. Make sure that the seat is properly folded down like that, and then split it in half so we have the robot mode feet. And then we push those further outward on these little slider joints. Then we take the undercarriage, fold that outward a little bit, take the head of the motorcycle, or the front, untab it, rotate it around, and fold it down like that to form the robot mode chest. Then we flip out the arms from the sides. Yet the undercarriage will form the arms. Give us a little bit of additional clearance. Bend the side panels like this so that these tabs on the front of the motorcycle could peg into these little holes where the swivel joints for the shoulders are located. And this is, of course, much easier said than done because of how the figure is designed, because sadly, most of the time, you're never going to get them tabbed in properly. It's a pain. It's a fucking pain. Ah, there we go. That's kind of okay. So yeah, just give us enough clearance so that then we can take the wheels and rotate them onto the back like this. Bada bing, bada boom. Stand them up. Raise the tripod a little bit on the ball joint. Yes, I did actually fix that loose leg on the tripod right now. Rotate the arms around at the bicep. Bring them down at the shoulders. And here we have Sideways in his robot mode. Without a head. Now obviously, he does actually have a head hidden within the front of the motorcycle that you can pull out like this, with pretty dynamic looking horns formed from the handlebars. It's a bit of a thin head. Yeah, that's actually a pretty nice looking shade of blue that they used for the visor. That's the color that Hasbro should have initially used on the headlights, but they went with that ugly looking metallic green or turquoise or whatever. But yeah. So let me just transform Bumblebee real quick for the size comparison. And here he is in a size comparison with Bumblebee. He's roughly about as tall, actually. If not a little bit taller, but that's pretty impressive. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so the articulation, well, you don't have much, sadly. The arms rotate a full 360 at the shoulder, and they can move outwards because they are universally jointed, but you only have a couple of 45-degree detents. And they're not ratcheted, by the way. It's just the shoulder blocks themselves are so disappointingly designed with these hard 45-degree angles that they do, yeah, that's the big disappointment. Also, bicep swivel and universal ratchet joints in his hips with with a low number of teeth that have very large detents between them, so sadly, you don't get a whole lot of posability with them. Which is kind of a shame because theoretically speaking, this is actually, I think that in a way, this guy does actually have better articulation than most other figures in the Armada toy line. Which is sad. But obviously, there's his main gimmick. And no, it's not the PowerLink gimmick with these Minicon ports. Which, by the way, they actually function as pretty good looking foot pegs for the bike mode. And yeah, the idea is you plug a Minicon in there and boom, you can push it forward and the missile fires. Which, by the way, pressure loaded missiles, so you have a ball joint molded in the middle that clips into that clip there. But meh. Obviously the main gimmick is actually the faction switching gimmick, which actually makes him something of a headmaster. Now, personally speaking, when it comes to modern attempts at headmasters, I don't like them because as far as I'm concerned, they always make the minifigures too small, so they end up with a gigantic, permanently exposed, upside-down robot face on their back. Even a lot of third-party headmaster figures are guilty of this. So yeah, but this guy actually does it quite well. So we'll take Crosswise first. Now, these guys have a very simple transformation into their head mode. You fold up the arms, and they do a cartwheel, and then you reposition the legs into a pair of horns. Now, Crosswise is perhaps the most famous head from Sideways, because it's the one that we see him, that we actually see him with throughout most of the Armada cartoon. So here is the head mode, almost. You push Sideways his head back in, make sure that the handlebars are folded as far down as they can go, and then the arms go push onto these panels here below the instrument gauge, and Crosswise's head will go into this hole on top of Sideways' head. And boom! Then you slide up the forehead to reveal the eyes, and there you have Sideways in his usual depiction as a Decepticon. Or at the, Decepticon at least, at the absolute worst. Obviously he's the herald of Unicron. But this is the head that he had throughout most of the show. It's fairly disappointing. And by the way, it is also worth mentioning that these purple stripes on Crosswise's legs, they were done intentionally, as well as the purple eyes, to identify that this is actually a later fixed copy of Sideways, because initially the faction symbols were swapped. In the show, this was obviously his Decepticon head, whereas Rook is actually an Autobot head. But earlier copies got it backwards because apparently that was how it was supposed to go. But this is how I remember him in the show, so I guess I can't complain too much. But yeah, it's a pretty disappointing head mode. At least, the overall shape, the proportions are a bit awkward. The Crosswise's legs make for very poor looking horns because in the show they do kind of curl more like actual bull horns. And the paintwork is very minimalistic. You just have purple on the eyes and on those stripes. So, meh. Fortunately, I do have a spare copy of Crosswise because I actually have 2 Armada Sideways figures. And this one is actually customized to be a bit more show accurate. So we do actually have this darker gray that I painted on this portion, which will become the faceplate. And red stripes. Believe it or not, that was actually show accurate. But yeah, we can transform him the same way. Though the ball joints on his hips are a little bit more awkward because they seem to be more restricted in the particular directions that they want to go. You can't move them 90 degrees forwards or 90 degrees outwards. They always kind of do that at the same time. Let me just demonstrate here. I can move them outward just fine, but I can't rotate them forwards because they automatically splay out to the side. But anyway, we can plug this improved Decepticon head on him. Bada bang, slide up the forehead. And this was a bit of a pain, but yeah, you got a black facial slit, I suppose, and the red paint on the eyes actually helps to bring him back to life, somewhat better. This does actually look pretty cool. So yeah, there you have that. Though it was a bit of a pain to get that forehead popped out. In fact, one of the tabs was basically broken, so I had to Frankenstein a new one using a very old metal hair clip from my mom that I was allowed to, that she doesn't use anymore, so I was allowed to just use that as a source of spare material for customizing work. Yeah, this does actually look pretty good. But still, I do prefer him as an Autobot, so we can just take crosswise, pop him off. There we go. Now for Rook. So we fold his arms up like this. Yay! He goes into the cartwheel as well. Now the best way that I recommend it for Rook is like this. You fold his legs down on these hinges, then you rotate them like this so that the slits of the ball joint sockets are facing forward with the actual sockets towards the back. Bring the lower legs up at the hinges and then rotate those around so that once again the sockets are on the inside. So now we plug him into the top, and he has thick arms which push down on 2 panels instead of just 1 to expose the Autobot symbol. And once again, slide up the forehead, and there you have Sideways as an Autobot. With a helmet that looks pretty imposing, not going to lie. But you know, maybe we can imagine like he has been watching Monty Python upon his arrival on Earth. And he's been inspired by the knights who say "ni" from the Holy Grail movie. Ni. Yeah, this head is actually kind of cool. You know, you got a pretty imposing looking mouth plate, and the red squares on either side of the eyes look kind of nice. So yeah, we can just move his arms up like this. And there we go. There we have Sideways. Honestly, I do wish that, in fact, what fun story. When I got my first Armada Sideways during an old defunct Transformers convention here in the Netherlands called BOTS, first time I ever went in 2012, I bought a corrected copy of Armada Sideways, mint in box, for 15 euros. Only to find the Takara version, again, Micron Legends Double Face, mint in box for 35. Obviously, I didn't go that route because, you know, Takara figures are, of course, more expensive than Hasbro figures back then, but now in hindsight, I do slightly regret it. Because, well, now I gotta figure out how I can actually get all this paint off of here and find a better shade of purple paint that matches with the plastic. And not just for this copy, but also the other Armada Sideways that I still have. Which is basically an Autobot only robot replicas figure, pretty much. That's been kit bashed quite extensively for the sake of better articulation. Rook in particular, just, yeah, part of him has been kit bashed away, but generally speaking, you know, more show accurate paint, by the way, with silver on his faceplate and the ankle rings, and also for Sideways overall, better articulation, you know, proper unimpeded universal shoulders, ball jointed elbows so they can bend and rotate. And then Bionicle or Hero Factory style CCBS bones in here. So you got ball jointed hips that can swing forwards and backwards without any... forwards and backwards and outwards without much limitation beyond this armor piece kind of catching on the chest. And hinge knees with a little bit of sideways play because they are, you know, hinge style ball joints. Oh, and yes, better looking hands so he can actually hold some stuff. And yeah, this guy has been kitbashed to only be an Autobot because, hey, I actually like the idea of Sideways being an Autobot. Like, not necessarily as a Decepticon or even as a Herald of Unicron, because honestly, if we ever get a new iteration of Sideways, please make him an Autobot. Like, let's just say, make him an Autobot ninja. Perhaps with a slightly edgy and tragic backstory. But the whole shtick of being a faction switcher, or, you know, Decepticon at best, Herald of Unicron at worst, we can save that for another dude. Rapid Run from Transformers Energon, who's a much more toxic looking redeco of him. But anyway, this has been a pretty long custom showcase on Armada Sideways. See you around!